You and I are getting ripped before summer's over, bro. And there's still plenty of time, but only if we start now, stop making excuses, and take relentless action. And then nobody will be able to stop us. Not these fitness influencers who want to give us body dysmorphia and keep us stuck so that they can sell us their garbage supplements. No. We're not getting ripped like pro bodybuilders. We're not getting ripped like TikTok soy boys or fitness influencers. We're getting ripped like high performing, testosterone maxed savages who care more about improving their whole life than just being a gym cell obsessed bodybuilding nerd. Because we're striving to be high performers, we don't have the time to live like fitness influencers. We have to make this process as efficient as possible to be able to work our full-time jobs and work towards our goals. And that's exactly what I'll be doing over the next 11 weeks of this shredding phase. I'll be working 6 days a week, about 50 to 60 hours at my full-time day job. And there's absolutely no reason why this can't work. 50 to 60 hours a week of manual, no mental energy work is very simple. There are savages who work 100 hours a week of cognitively demanding work and they still manage to get in shape. So why can't we? Just to give you a bit of context, I've never actually managed to get properly ripped. I've been lean-ish, and a skinny fat mess who's let himself go. But I've never been properly marbled and extra defined, because every single time I've set out to do so, I've given up. I've stopped the process because it got too hard. I was doing things the completely wrong way, which I'll get into when I go over the plan. But I was always giving in to the body dysmorphia, using that as an excuse, because I would tell myself that, oh, what am I doing getting lean when I need to bulk, I need to build more muscle. And so even before I was halfway through the process, I would just give up and go back to my binge eating, comfort seeking ways. And I've had enough of this. I'm sick of stopping halfway to my goals like a mediocre cuck. No, this process will be stuck to until completion, and I'm going to take you with me.
So after 1 week of cutting, this is how the physique is looking. Completely cold, no pump, no flexing, in natural lighting outside. And already I can see the glaring weak point, which is of course the arms. And no, it's not my genetics. It's not the reason that I'm 6'2" with a bit of a lanky build. No, it's because for many years I would skip arms, and when I didn't skip them, I would completely half-arse them. So just for a bit of comparison, here are some gym changing room shots in sexy lighting with a pump, getting some nice angles in.
So here's the actual system that I'm going to follow on my way to this goal, which I'm going to call the High Performance Shredding Blueprint. Wow, I know, how original. It's okay, this name is not final. I will make it more cool on the journey, but hey. First principles, let's talk about the mindset, because without this, there is literally nothing. Our habits and actions are shaped initially by our thoughts and beliefs. So if what originates up here is garbage, then what is manifested in external reality will also be garbage, and vice versa. It's a cycle that feeds into itself, but the fundamentals of the high performance shredding blueprint is that ultimately life is more important than the gym. Like I said before, we're not trying to be gym cell fitness influencers where the only thing that's going for us is our shredded physique. No. We want to use our physique as a tool to give us more confidence, more energy, and more clarity on our way to conquer larger and larger goals. It's simply a vessel, a container that represents our mindset to the world. So, speaking of the mindset, let's talk emotions. I want you to adopt the belief, as I am doing so, that emotions are an anchor. They hold us back if we are a slave to them. If we're always going through life and we're a slave to our feelings, we're ultimately getting cucked by the world around us because we lose control. So, however, an anchor doesn't just weigh you down and hold you in place. It's also a tool to give you some more stability. So, we must become more in tune and in control of our emotions, rather than letting our emotions tune and control us. So, on our journey to acquire this disgustingly sexy shredded physique, we don't try our best, because our current perception of our best is rooted in the perspective of who we are right now. And who we are right now is not capable of achieving those goals, otherwise he would have already done so. So we must adopt the principle that we do what is required, whatever that may be. Most importantly of all, we're never going to get to this goal if we're always waiting to find motivation. No, we go out there and we create motivation. You might be wondering, what does that even mean? Well, I made a whole video about it, which I may link below, or you can just click on my videos. You'll find it very, very quickly. Now let's talk about our nutrition, because this is the biggest lever that will help us get shredded. Yes, we obviously have to train like animals, but if we're still stuffing our face like a gluttonous pig, then it's never going to work. Because you can't outrun your bad habits, and you can't outrun a garbage diet. So, our goal for nutrition is mainly to support mental clarity and our testosterone levels, because this is what will lead to our high performance, not just in training but in life. Because typically the Instagram fitness influencer cutting diet will have you feeling like garbage, because it's based on the methods of pro bodybuilders, which don't need to optimize their testosterone levels because their steroids take care of that for them. But as naturals, we can't get away with that. Naturally, as we get more and more shredded, our testosterone levels will go down because our body wants to be at about 14 to 16% to produce the most complete hormonal profile. But we can negate a lot of those side effects by choosing the right foods. And so, obviously, as we work towards these nutrition goals, we're optimizing for nutrient density. And because we're still building, I'm not talking to guys who are freaking multi-millionaires already, no. We're hustling, we're on the grind, we have a long way to go, so we have a limited budget. That's also what we're optimizing for. And, we're busy in the trenches, we're on the grind. We need to make this as efficient as possible to prepare quickly. We haven't got the time to sit around and prepare all of these elaborate Instagram recipes with about 20 different ingredients. No, because simplicity is the greatest form of sophistication. We won't be following the brain fog bodybuilder diet, chicken, broccoli, rice, all of this clean, healthy food that, yes, it might be high in protein, low in calories, but ultimately has very few nutrients and will lead to us feeling like garbage. And we're not going to be following the sugar-addicted influencer diet. Those guys who have to make those protein pancakes and basically butcher and annihilate dessert recipes by adding extra protein in them because they just can't, fix their addictions. No, we're following the high tea, savage, whole food diet, the way humans need to eat. That doesn't mean that we have to hate our food though, but we should change our approach to it. We shouldn't enjoy food because we're craving comfort and we want the sweet release of instant pleasure. No. We enjoy food because we absorb the fuel to be used for our mission. So here's the framework that I'm going to be running throughout the process of this cut. I'm going to be doing a 6-1 split of 6 days where I'm eating and 1 full day of fasting, which will be Sabbath, Saturday, the Lord's Day of Rest. I'm not doing it because fasting is some magic tool that will immediately make you ripped. No, I'm doing it for mental clarity and resetting my dopamine system to help with food addiction, because yes, I've had food addiction as long as I can remember, because I guess I've used it as an escapism, coping mechanism to run away from my problems. But hey, that's exactly why I'm doing this. And obviously this fasting will allow me to eat more calories on the days that I am eating. To make it simple, easy, efficient, and to get my body into homeostasis, we're going to be eating the same food every day. There's going to be foundational building blocks that every meal is the same. And you might be thinking, God, that's so boring. Yes and no. You actually find certain sweet satisfaction in the boredom and the repetition. Plus, my body will just operate so much better if it gets used to the same rhythm. So, like I said already, I'm 1 week down into this process, which means I have 11 more weeks left, which I've divided into 4 3-week blocks, which I will be performing as so. Calories for the first block, which I'm in right now, is going to be 3150 for the day. Now, if I equate that and divide it, that adds up to 2700 calories if I'm going to be eating 7 days a week. But as you can see, this number is significantly greater. So the eating days are going to be more bearable. And the fasting day, honestly, fasting's a lot easier than you think. And then we're going to drop it down to 2900 for the next block. And then 2650 and then 2400. Now, you might be thinking, starting off at 2700 total might be a little bit aggressive, but that's the point. I'm not trying to do one of these long and slow 6-month cuts because honestly I think that'll be more agonizing and more of a slow death by 1,000 cuts type of thing. I'd rather get it done more quickly, get ripped so that I will become more sensitive to growth and will be able to partition nutrients more effectively. So here's going to be the baseline. No matter how deep I am into the cut, even at 2400 calories a day, there will be 10 eggs because obviously, if you don't know already, then you don't know already, but eggs are high in cholesterol and all other heaps of micronutrients that are very important for maintaining your testosterone levels. And you know, it's worth making sacrifices with your other calories to be able to make space for 10 eggs. And obviously, beef will be the main meat because it's very nutrient dense, way more than chicken. Plus, it just tastes more satisfying. And you can get leaner and leaner cuts. Whereas if you go for something like lamb, which is also very nutrient dense, you're not really going to get any lean cuts of that. So yeah, right now I'm at 10% fat beef mince, and I'm going to keep it at that. 25% is amazing for bulking, maintaining, just feeling high test because of the fat, but obviously it's insanely high in calories, so I'm going to have to sacrifice it for the 10% edition. I'm not going to go for 5% because honestly it tastes like rubber, and just because it's lower in calories doesn't make it more satisfying. Because here's the key thing about trying to eat in high volume, low calorie foods. Yes, it's a lot of food and it's gonna fill up stomach space, but it's not gonna make you feel satisfied. It's a really weird feeling when your stomach is so full of this low calorie food, but it just doesn't feel full of actual satisfaction. Because fat is the macronutrient that will give you that satisfaction. But obviously fat is the highest in calories. So you have to strike a balance here. For my carbs, I'm going to keep it real simple, just the way nature intended it. Potatoes, fruit, raw honey, and that's that. Because potatoes are insanely voluminous and low in calories. It's that perfect balance I was talking about. Potatoes on their own, they're gonna make you feel full and bloated but not satisfied, which is why we add the eggs, we add a little bit of fats here and there. But all
all in all, potatoes are the golden winner for, high performance, getting shredded. Because from all the carbs I've ever eaten, potatoes give me the least brain fog and allow me to function with a lot more clarity. Even though they make me freaking fart like an absolute fart releasing machine. Obviously, fruit is just a goat. Tastes delicious, full of micronutrients, and helps you poo a lot more smoothly. Raw honey, man, is an absolute godsend. Before workouts, especially, maybe during workouts, if you're feeling a bit depleted, low on energy. Man, yeah, you can definitely overdo it because it's so delicious, but it also just hits that spot and is so rich that you'd be a bit of a maniac to have frickin' tablespoons and tablespoons of it in one go. Then for the veg, because yes, Mama told us that we need to eat our vegetables to become big and strong, we have something called bistro salad, which is found in Lidl and Aldi. I don't know what other shops, but it's essentially just leaves of chard, I don't know what else, sort of dark leafy greens with shredded beetroot in it. And it's very quick, very easy micronutrients, no preparation needed, just freaking open the bag, pour it on your plate of potatoes and beef. There you go. Adds a little bit of freshness and a ton of nutrients. Obviously, if we're going to keep our testosterone levels high and feel mildly satisfied even when we're depleted and hungry, we have to add some fat. And I've chosen coconut oil, pardon me, because it's an MCT, which is a medium chain triglyceride, and it really helps with your cognitive performance. Seriously, if you've never tried a cup of coffee with coconut oil in it, you're missing out. Essentially, it's going to be very easy to get from these calories to these calories, because all I'm going to have to do is reduce the number of potatoes that I'm eating. Like I already said, I'm going to keep the beef and 10 eggs at an absolute baseline. This is going to stay constant no matter how big the deficit goes, but potatoes are going to be the first ones to take the cut, if you will. By the end, I haven't calculated it yet, but I may even have to remove the potatoes entirely in favour of just fruit, raw honey, salad, beef and eggs, which, I think, even if it might not be as high volume as possible, it's going to make me feel just bearable enough to finish the cup. Now let's talk about the cherry on the top, the supplements. Not the foundational building blocks, despite what some marketing guru frauds might have you believe. No, the supplements is just that extra little sprinkle, a little 5% on top of a good foundation. Because no amount of supplements is going to change anything if the rest of your habits aren't in order. But that being said, they can provide you that little edge. So, here's my stack. In the morning, I'm going to take some apple cider vinegar to help with blood sugar regulation. Just blunting that insulin spike, because I train almost first thing in the morning, and I take some raw honey as a pre-workout. And so this apple cider vinegar is going to make the sugar spike less aggressive. Garlic is obviously a pretty miraculous herb. So many benefits. I'm not going to get nerdy and detailed now, but the main reason I'm taking it is for immune system health and nasty, nasty pumps. Man, if you've never tried a raw garlic gym pump, then I urge you to try it, because your veins are going to be swelling, your blood's going to be engorged. Forget about it, man. Although I will say, stinky breath, yes, farts, diabolical, but hey, it's worth the sacrifice. Obviously, creatine doesn't even need explaining. It's just the most proven supplement that actually works. Cheap as piss. Why wouldn't you add it? Bee pollen. You might not have heard this before. I don't see a lot of people supplementing with bee pollen, and I don't know why that is. It's quite miraculous, I should say. I've already used that adjective already, so I'm sorry about that. I'll come up with something more creative for lion's mane, which is obviously an adaptogen helping brain function. Nothing crazy, right? It's not a miracle cure for ADHD, dopamine retardation. If you're taking all the lion's mane in the world, but you're still destroying your brain by social media scrolling, binge eating, drugs, freaking mindless hookups, all of that nonsense, it's not going to do anything. But if you take it for a consistent period of time, it's going to start to rewire your neural pathways. Now, that is in theory, okay? I must say, I haven't experimented with it before for consistently enough to actually get to that point. But from everything I've read, like a little nerd, it's one of those substances that you have to take consistently for it to start having any effects. Minimum 4 to 6 weeks from what I've seen. Obviously, Tonka Ali is one of the most potent tools for improving your test levels, just helping you feel more vital. Also down-regulates cortisol, which is very important. Not that cortisol is bad, but too much cortisol, bro, you're not going to have a good time. And electrolytes. Very, very important. Something I have neglected for a very long time, and it takes its toll. I'm not going to be buying one of these Dr. Huberman approved freaking sachets that are way too overpriced, because yes, I'm not a baller yet. These electrolytes is simply going to be sea salt, bit of potassium chloride, and honestly, for potassium, the amount of potatoes I'll be eating at the start of the phase will be enough. And for my bedtime supplement stack to wind down, relax, and improve sleep quality, it's going to be magnesium, which is also another electrolyte which completes the stack. Ashwagandha, because it's another proven way to lower your cortisol, make you feel more calm. And some tart cherry juice, which actually helps facilitate the natural release of melatonin, which is what puts you to sleep. This might seem like a massive list, but I've chosen some extremely bang for buck ingredients that are very cheap and potent. But like I said already, if you're going to prioritize supplements and not food, you're literally hustling in reverse, wasting so much money, and your mind is in the wrong place, bro. So these are the staple supplements of morning, evening that I will be taking every day. But there are some tactical supplements that should be used more moderately than every day, because there might be more of a slippery slope type of effect. You know, tolerance increase, dependability, addiction, all of that stuff. Especially caffeine, man. Oh, I tell you, man, I'm an absolute caffeine demon. And to be honest, so are a lot of people that I look up to and you might look up to. But I don't want to be this way. I want to be the master of my caffeine. I don't want caffeine to make me its bitch. I want to use it tactically. Not every single day like a crackhead. No. On the days where I want that extra little bit of hype. CBD is obviously a very powerful tool to de-stress, lower cortisol, just make you feel zen. Not obviously accompanied by its violent hoodlum of an older cousin called THC, which you must cut out immediately if you're still using it. So he talks about the life outside the gym, all of the inputs that should feed your body. But let's talk about the actual source, the meat and potatoes, which is the training. Because yes, you can cut all the food you want, you can eat as healthy as possible, perfect nutrition, but if you're not actually training, then all that nutrition is, fueling nothing. So here is my weekly split. On Sunday we have Bro Day, which is arms, delts and chest. Needs no explanation, the favourite muscle groups of bros. And on Monday we have Tank Day, which is back, legs, neck and abs. Simple enough. Back obviously gives you that thickness, that width, that just meaty look. Legs gives you the look of someone who is actually strong and stable, not a frail little chicken. Neck, because who doesn't want to look like a thumb, right? And abs, because does it need an explanation, right? Why the hell would we get shredded and have dainty little abs that are flat as hell with no bulge to them? Plus, when we reverse back out of the cut and go into a building phase, why wouldn't you want to keep your abs at a higher body fat percentage? Which obviously isn't possible if you don't develop them, because there'll be only fat and nothing to bulge through it. Tuesday we have a violent clarity ruck. This has become my favourite form of burning calories, because man do you burn a hell of a lot of calories when you're rucking. Yes, if you could sprint, if you could do martial arts or a very intense, out of breath activity for the same amount of time, you would burn more calories, but you just can't do that, which makes rucking the holy grail, because you can do it for a prolonged period of time consistently, and that's ultimately what burns more calories. Now, why do I call it a violent clarity ruck? Well, because no headphones, no music, just me, my freaking voice of limiting beliefs that every single step I take, I'm proving wrong. Good time to connect with, myself, my authentic voice, and talk to God. Wednesday is called Chad Day, where again we're just mashing our arms and delts. Because, you probably saw earlier, these are my weakest links. I don't think I need much chest volume. I think I need to absolutely demolish my arms and my delts to make my physique well rounded as possible. Thursday is just unit day. Essentially the same as tank day but without the back, because obviously legs, neck makes you look like a unit, not just a pretty boy at the beach. But Friday will be for becoming that pretty boy at the beach, the sexy day. Chest, back, delts. Saturday is the Sabbath, which makes it a rest day. However, that doesn't mean rest as in stagnation, as in lying in bed, watching Netflix and eating garbage. No, like I already said, it's going to be the day of fasting, for clarity, for discipline, for resetting my dopamine system, which I will be spending obviously connecting with the Lord, allowing Him to flow through me and guide my actions. Obviously, I can still go for a nice long walk. I can maybe go to the beach for a nice swim with some church friends if the occasion calls for it. I can freaking go for another violent clarity rack if the intentions are aligned with connecting to God. And obviously, because I'm gonna be losing body fat, I don't want to pick exercises that are leverage dependent and are fatiguing, like the squat, the bench and the deadlift, because as body fat drops, as you get more depleted, as you have lower energy, the first thing to go is going to be your bench and your squat. So rather than classic squat, bench, deadlift, I'm going to replace it for dips, belt squat and Romanian deadlift, all of which are a lot less fatiguing and, even more importantly, aren't leverage dependent as much. No, as a matter of fact, for dips, you can get stronger while you cut because your body weight will be lower. The mentality we're going to use with our training during the cut is to try and keep as much strength as possible, but also try to build it. Because a lot of people, they hear that, oh, you're going to lose strength when you get shredded, and that is true, but that doesn't mean that you should preemptively start to lower the weight even before you lose any strength, because this mentality will actually make you lose strength a lot quicker than you would otherwise. Obviously, this is not a time for ego lifting and trying to hoist as heavy of weights as possible all the time. No. We're going to try to keep and build a strength, but with a foundation of muscle stimulating form. Not nerdy robot frickin' science. No. Basic and controlled while still being reasonably explosive. And we're not gonna preemptively cut our volume, intensity or frequency as we get more lean. We're gonna let our bodies decide if and when it's time to lower any of those factors. Because again, some people, they hear that, you know, you get more fatigued, you get a lower work capacity when you're cutting, but that doesn't mean you should lower it before you need to. So, we're going to train like animals with everything I've listed before. We need to recover from our training. So, what is going to be my sleep routine? 4 a.m. wake up is non-negotiable. No matter how I'm feeling, no matter how late I went to bed, 4 a.m. is going to be, up. No debating, no rolling around, questioning, should I snooze, should I go back to sleep? No. Yes, I know that sleep is where you recover, but I think it's more important at a certain stage of life that you and I are in, where we're trying to build. It's more important to learn how to actually work hard, push ourselves, and say no to that comforting little bitch of a voice in our heads. However, this doesn't mean that we should be freaking barbarian buffoons about it. No. We're becoming warriors, but Zen warriors who know the importance of recovery, which means that even though I'm waking up at 4 a.m, no matter how late I went to bed, the goal is to go to bed by 8 p.m, which doesn't mean that, that's going to be possible every night. But that's the aim. First and foremost is the wake up time, but the going to bed time is more of a target. And obviously, as I progress towards my goals and actually start designing my life the way it has to be, 8 p.m. bedtime will become possible every night, but that's to work towards in the future. However, a nighttime wind down routine is always going to be crucial, because even if you go to bed immediately and maybe get an extra half an hour of sleep, it's going to be lower quality sleep if you just come away from stimulating your brain by scrolling or even doing some important work. Sleep is just one pillar of recovery. Next, we must think about stress evaporation, because nothing will make you recover worse than chronically elevated cortisol. So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to cut out overstimulation, to death with all of this distracting noise, all of the freaking scrolling, Netflix, dating apps, all of the garbage that keeps your brain chaotic and overthinking. We're going to cut out debauchery, going out with bad influences who want to make us drunk, intoxicated, meaningless casual sex, all of this stuff that might be very, very pleasurable in the moment, but always leaves us feeling like garbage, just looking in the mirror with utter disgust, regretful of the choices we made. And along with this, obviously, we're going to cut out any BS toxicity, which is the people who make our heads spin. You might be in a phase of your life where you can't quite cut out all the toxic people because you might be working with them, you might even live with them, but do what you can to limit exposure. Pretend you have noise cancelling headphones on whenever you're talking to them. Start doing that Homer Simpson monkey thing. But some things to evaporate stress would be to sit there and just breathe. Be at one with your body and your emotions. See thoughts arise and gently let them go. I'm obviously talking about meditation. Coupled with walking, getting your 10,000 steps without music, without podcasts, just you and your brain. coupled with reading positive books that improve your mindset, you know, that's going to be a very healthy replacement from all of this nonsense. So that is the blueprint that I'm going to be following for the next 11 weeks to get ripped and sexy. And I'm inviting you to join me. When September comes, I am going to be peeled. You will either be ripped alongside me or regretful that you didn't start sooner. That yet another year came and you never quite got there. No matter what choice you make, the time will pass anyway. It's up to you whether you want to get to the end of September and be proud of yourself or disgusted at yourself.